All right, hey guys. This is just a follow-up to my Galvanic Shards Shockburst rounds mercenary, specifically Witch Hunter. I just finished up the last trial, so I'm pretty confident that the character's in a pretty good spot. And so I wanted to follow up and show you guys kind of what I'm doing, and I've made some pretty major switches that I kind of touched on in the first video, so now you guys get to see them kind of come to life. So first of all, if you look at our armor and evasion, you can see that we have switched over to being evasion based. This is pretty nice because it used to be I had like 23 and like 30%, like 23% armor, 30% evasion when I had sorcery ward on, and now we're kind of just ditching armor and just going with evasion, which has worked out very well. We didn't really have enough armor to mitigate any hits in a meaningful way, so just going all in on evasion instead definitely seems to be the move, and I'm glad that I foresaw the correct outcome. It does seem like evasion is a lot better. So yeah, you can see we're pretty much resist capped. We have a little bit missing on cold. I could easily fix it with a rune, but I just don't want to socket stuff into my gear yet because I have no idea what GGG is thinking in terms of like being able to replace runes, and I don't want to potentially brick my gear before I am confident on the gear that I'm using, which I'm still not 100% confident. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for that part, but we can really quickly look at the gems. So not too much has changed here. I've taken everything out of sorcery ward because it doesn't seem like levels actually do anything for it. It doesn't increase the amount that it shields for. You can't add quality to it, so I'm pretty sure that adding levels to sorcery ward just doesn't do anything. I could be wrong, but I mean, yeah, if you put this in here, I guess it looks like it upgrades the barrier recharge just ever so slightly by 0.1 seconds, but that's not enough to matter. I'd rather boost something else with the levels. So, and right now our int is like super choked. If we had more int, I would obviously throw in the fire and cold to boost the level, because sure, having a little faster barrier recharge is good, but it's just not worth it at the moment because my int is so low, and I'd rather support things with other stuff. So, okay, so Stormcaller Arrow. This is one of the main changes. We took out the exposure and we put in overcharge, and I'll talk about why we did that in just a second when we go over the gear. But this is a change. Getting the increased magnitude of shocks is really, really nice, and we still have a lot of shock duration. So even though we have that 50% less shock duration, it's still feeling pretty strong. Especially since the magnitude is higher, the duration doesn't need to be as long because I'm just like killing whatever rare I'm shooting at the time before the duration even runs out. Wind Dancer, we're still doing the same thing. Shockburst, we're doing the same thing. Herald of Thunder, we're doing the same thing. Actually, not quite the same thing. Herald of Thunder, we have moved to Lightning Mastery. We moved that over from Sorcery Ward just to get an extra level on it. It's not super important. We took out Coursing Current for this because I don't feel like I need the extra shock on other enemies. Just getting extra damage is all I actually really want out of this. So this has felt a lot better, just getting more damage rather than having the Coursing Current. But I think if I had a fourth slot on this, I'd probably put Coursing Current back in because there's really not that many things that are like great in terms of like putting in supports. There's a lot of, I feel, missing lightning support gems. Galvanic Shards, we're still doing the same stuff. And Emergency Reload, we're still doing the same stuff. So really the main thing that changed is putting the Lightning Mastery over into Herald of Thunder, and then putting Overcharge onto Stormcaller Arrow. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it with the gems, so we can take a look at the gear. This stuff has changed a decent amount, yeah, so let's jump into the crossbow, probably the most important piece. So I think this crossbow I bought for about 40x, something like that, and it's really good. So especially since we've moved over to crit and evasion, like I kind of discussed in the last video, which I think is a stronger version of the build, you really need that plus to critical hit chance in the suffix. Having plus to critical hit chance and critical damage bonus are both really good. I think you can also roll attack speed in a suffix, so that would obviously be better than 13 mana per enemy killed. But yeah, this is pretty much as good as it gets for a crossbow. Obviously, you could have better rolls, higher tiers, but this is kind of what you want. Yeah, obviously, accuracy rating and the mana per enemy killed could be better, but it's okay. Then I think really quickly to touch on the sockets here, I actually think that the soul core that gives you critical damage bonus, like plus flat critical damage bonus, is actually the way to go rather than the physical damage. So that is this one right here, Soul Core of Takaba. It's plus 12% to critical damage bonus, and that's really good. It's not increased, it's plus. So you're adding to your flat base critical damage bonus value, which is then also going to be increased by all of your increases to critical damage bonus. So this is really, really good. And I think if you had enough crit chance, this would be the way to go over physical damage. So yeah, that's it for that crossbow. This is kind of what you're looking for at a base. The other pieces of gear that have changed is this ring. This ring is like really, really good. Max life, evasion rating, and percent increased lightning damage are like the ideals for your prefixes. Getting some strength is really nice. We're really, really starved on stats in this build, so having more stats is always good. And then fire and chaos resistance are really, really nice. I mean, obviously that fire could be a lot higher, but you know, just getting 2 resistances there is really, really nice. Looking at the other ring, this one is like way worse. The only reason this was even expensive was because it has some rarity. But then, you know, max life, the other 2 prefixes are pretty bad, but you got rarity and chaos resistance with max life, and then a nice, you know, big cold resistance implicit. And then the chest piece. So this is nothing crazy, but you know, it's a lot of evasion rating, which is really good because we take this node right here, Bestial Skin, 100% increased evasion rating from equipped body armor. So that's going to double your evasion rating on your body armor. And then, yeah, just some life, some resistances. The stun threshold sucks, but is what it is. I'm not going to chaos this thing because 5 out of 6 mods are good. And then everything else I believe was in the last video. These gloves, this belt, these boots, and this helmet. Obviously I have a lot of resistances that I could put in a cold rune somewhere, and probably should put one in on my helmet, but you know, it is what it is. I think until I know what GGG's plan is for rune sockets, I kind of don't want to put anything in if I think that the piece of gear is good, which this is a good piece of gear. Rarity is really nice, fat, fire, resistance, and life. So it's a good helmet, but ideally these 3 pieces right here would be evasion rating bases rather than hybrid, or this one is even just armor. So this is like doing kind of nothing for us in terms of defense, but these 2 items are just good and kind of hard to replace. I think that the ideal for gloves would be a attack speed suffix, but we don't have it. So, all right, and then the last piece of gear, kind of the most important one, and why we transferred over to crit, is Choir of the Storm. So this is a really interesting amulet. It gives you a level 18 lightning bolt skill. Unfortunately, you cannot support it with anything. I don't know if that is intended to be changed at some point, but yeah, so right now you can't support it with anything, which kind of sucks. It'd be cool if you could support it, but you don't have to pay the mana cost, so I guess that's probably why. So yeah, you get some lightning resistance, which is okay, and then you get a really insane mod, which is critical hits ignore enemy monster lightning resistance. What this lets us do is it lets us spec out of a lot of the lightning penetration that we had in the build, as well as get rid of exposure on Stormcaller Arrow, because our main damage is going to be coming through with critical hits, so we don't really care about when we're not critting, and when we are critting, we are ignoring all lightning resistance. So really strong. And then also we get that lightning bolt skill on critical hit, which is nice. I mean, it's hard for me to quantify how much damage it does. It's really difficult to tell, but it seems like it does a lot of damage, especially when it triggers on a mob and I can see it happen. It chunks pretty hard, and sometimes I'll see like chains of triggering on a boss, and it does a lot of damage. So I think that this amulet's really strong, and the main thing that it does is let you get out of speccing into lightning penetration, which was a lot of points. I mean, you get a ton of points back on the tree by using this amulet. So it's pretty good, and I really dig it. And I'll show you guys a map at the end of this, and you can see it for yourself. So yeah, that's it for the gear, and we'll talk quickly about Ascendancy and passive trees. So yeah, like I said, I just finished up the 4th trial, and I went into Ceremonial Ablution. This is extremely strong. We now have a 3600, and this is also due to us switching over to a pure evasion build for the most part, because we can scale evasion so much harder than we can a hybrid of armor and evasion. And also armor is just kind of dog shit right now, so scaling armor doesn't really do that much for us anyways. So it's better to go harder into one side so that we can get a big sorcery ward. So yeah, so we took Ceremonial Ablution, and yeah, now we have a 3600 sorcery ward that recharges every 4 seconds. So our ability to tank elemental damage is huge. We can take a lot of elemental damage before we go down, which is a lot of the damage that you're going to be taking in maps. So then if we go and we look at the tree, or sorry, before we do that, let's keep talking about ascendancies, right? So I feel like this is really strong. I've mapped with it for a little bit. It feels really strong. I'm personally really digging it. I think that there is an argument that you could drop these 2 points and instead take Zealous Inquisition. And I think the main time you make that argument is if you're trying to push Breach. So if you're really trying to push Breach, I think taking Zealous Inquisition makes sense. And you drop Ceremonial Ablution and you run with Obsessive Rituals and then Zealous Inquisition. I don't think you ever change any of these 4 points. Culling Strike and Decimating Strike are just like absolutely busted. Really, really strong. The only real reason why you want to play Witch Hunter, I'd say. So yeah, I think that's the main thing I would recommend, is if you're really going into Breach, Zealous Inquisition probably makes sense, because I think that all of the Breach things are demons, so you have a 20% chance for them to explode, dealing 100% of their max life as physical damage, so you're just going to eviscerate the screen with this thing in a Breach. So yeah, that's it for the Ascendancies, and then let's take a quick look at the passive tree. So like I said, the main things that we're taking out is like all of this lightning resistance stuff. So we get to get rid of that because we are going crit instead with Choir of the Storm. And since we're going crit, and when we crit we ignore resistance, we no longer need elemental like lightning resistance penetration. So you'll see a lot of stuff has changed in terms of that. Like, we're no longer taking any of these lightning penetration nodes. Yeah, the other stuff that's changed is we're no longer taking Lightning Rod, which feels bad because Lightning Rod is such a good notable, but at the same time, our best damage is going to be when we crit, because we're not using exposure anymore. So we want to maximize our critical hits, and we need to maximize our crit chance. So Lightning Rod just doesn't do anything for us when we crit, so it's a dead node when we crit, so we don't really want it. Then the other stuff that is kind of interesting that we're taking power shots. This actually feels pretty bad. It feels good in terms of the damage it gives you, but it feels bad in terms of, like, it's a 15% reduced attack speed, which definitely hurts, but the critical hit chance that you get on the tree before it, as well as the critical damage bonus that you get with crossbows, like, it's a lot of fucking damage. This really, really hits hard. So it's tough, but I think that it's the right choice. It does feel bad. If it really feels bad for you, you could take this point out. I would still run with these crossbow critical chances, because you want as much crit as you can get. This build is kind of crit starved, but like, it's pretty hard to get a lot of crit. We're taking a lot of the crit that we can, and even then it's still pretty tough. So, but yeah, then the other stuff in the passive tree is, we're getting all this crit here, we're getting this crit here, we're getting this crit here, we're getting this crit up here with Throat Seeker. This is also kind of a bit of a toss-up right now, is like taking 20% reduced critical hit chance feels pretty bad, but the 60% increased critical damage bonus is a lot of damage. So you could also experiment with taking these 3 points or not. I'm personally going to keep taking them, but I could understand why somebody wouldn't want to take them. Then, yeah, that's pretty much the main stuff. I mean, we're taking this evasion here. We're taking all of this evasion here, which is really great. Something that I'm going to see if I can change is I definitely want to get this attack speed here because, like I said, with power shots, you're getting 15% reduced attack speed. And then these nodes would give us 6% from the small nodes. And then this big node would give us 17%, and then actually another percentage. So this one node would give us 18%, which would completely offset power shots and then some, right? I'd get an additional 3%. So that's kind of where I think the build is headed. Probably going to get a question about Wildstorm, or you might wonder it. It's really good. I think the more I look at it, the more I'm probably going to anoint this because I just don't think I have the points to be able to get over there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. That's a ton of points unless I play this character to like level 95 or something like that. I don't see that happening of getting here. Like that's the level I would have to play to. So I don't think that's going to happen. So I think I'm probably going to anoint Wildstorm on the amulet. And then that'll be that. And I'm not going to path up here. It sucks because this increased lightning damage is nice. This is all good, but I just don't think that we have the points for it. And there's other things that the build needs, like crit and jewel sockets and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that, hopefully this gives you guys a good enough look. And also if you need a, Mobalytics guide or something, let me know and I can make one and post it. But I think that this is a good enough look at it to kind of have an idea of what's going on. So yeah, and then really quick, I'm just going to touch on the jewels. So these are this is like the ideal jewel, I'm pretty sure. And this is also where I want people to chime in and let me know if I'm being dumb or if there's better jewels that you can use. But percent increased lightning damage, critical hit chance for attacks, and attack speed with crossbows. Those are the 3 things that I'm looking for. Those are how I bought the jewels. I bought all of these jewels as 3 mod jewels, and then I exalt slammed them because I was like, I don't really care. I'd just give me another mod. This one happened to hit projectile damage, which is really good. But yeah, that's kind of the 3 mods that I was looking for: lightning damage, critical hit chance, and attack speed. And then, yeah, you can see I kind of bought just those jewels over and over again. The jewels were pretty cheap. I think they were between like 3 and 8 exalts, depending on the rolls on them. So they're not super expensive. You should be able to buy these jewels, no problem. So yeah, that's pretty much all I was looking for. You can see that some of these have something completely useless, like increased damage with quarterstaves. Some of them have like percent increased damage while you have an active charm, which never fucking happens. But then some of them, like this one, is just more damage, which is really great. So yeah, these jewels are actually really good. They do give you a lot of damage, which kind of makes me want to grab this jewel socket right here as well. But yeah. So that's pretty much it for the passive tree. And then, yeah, sorry about the sniffling too. I'm a little bit sick right now, but yeah, I'll run through a map really quick. And yeah, I'll show you guys kind of how the build is doing in maps, and also I guess grab a quick level because I'm almost level 87 here. So, but yeah, I'm really loving the build, and I'm really loving how it's been performing in maps. I'm loving how it's been performing in bossing as well. I think it's a pretty decent build if you can do the 4th trial. Like I said, I had, or maybe I'm not sure if I did say it, but I had very good boons and very minor afflictions for the build. So like one of them was have no energy shield, and like I obviously don't care about energy shield. So I can't guarantee that it'll be as easy for you guys if you're following this build to get your Ascendancy done on the first try like I did. But I do think that this build has the legs to do it. And if you try a couple times, you'll get it done. The damage was very strong on the boss. So I think that, yeah, it's not so bad. Okay, so yeah, here's a rare. Pretty much just melt him. And then, yeah, you can see we got hit by, a big elemental hit, and our sorcery ward just completely absorbed it for us. So, yeah, it's pretty hard to actually die. It's been a while since I've died in a map. I will be completely transparent and say I don't really do the rippiest of content, but I mean, I've done like, tier 16 boss maps. I think the couple that I've done also had like elemental resistance and stuff. But that's also why this amulet is so great, is you get to ignore a lot of really scary, or like scary mods and stuff, like elemental resistance aura on rares, elemental resistance on the map, stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty great. So I've been really digging the build, and yeah, damage is really great, and survivability has been really great too. Sorry about that, got a phone call, but I think that, yeah, the build's really solid. I do think that this won't ever be like a huge GG build, where you can take on every single piece of content in the game and scale this build like infinitely. So I don't know if I would expect that if you follow what I'm doing, but I do think that, like, for example, I think that this would be like a really good like league start build, and probably, if nothing really major changes in the game, this is probably what I will actually like league start whenever the game releases, unless there's obviously some major difference or something like that, because it just feels super solid. Not a ton of like gear needed. You can play as non-crit for a really long time. I only switched over to crit and evasion when I went over to do the 4th trial. So yeah, there's a lot that you can do. So yeah, let me know if you guys dig the build. Let me know if there's any problems that you're running into, and if there's any info that you guys need to take it to the next level or something like that, or if I'm missing anything. I'm definitely not claiming to know how to build everything perfectly. I barely ever built anything in PoE 1, and I don't think I'm the best build maker in PoE 2 either. So all right, well, I'm just going to finish up the map, and I'll leave you guys with that, and you guys can keep watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and if not, then I'll hopefully see you guys soon in the future with maybe another build guide, maybe a continuation of this, or I might revisit my my Earthshatter Warrior Titan. There's a guide on that out there if you want to see it as well. Ciao.